Hello everybody, good morning, afternoon or evening to you all wherever you are in the world, wherever you're dialing in from. Welcome to the webinar, which is a summary of a project run under the Consumer Information Programme of the UN One Planet Network. The One Planet Network is one of the official global implementation mechanisms of Sustainable Development Goal 12, Sustainable Consumption and Production. This project began back in 2017 and it was a 2-year venture to establish more sustainable consumption and production practices in the agri-food sector of Sri Lanka. This was done by forming life cycle databases and ultimately a new green certification scheme. In a country where agriculture utilises 43% of the total land area, the switch to more environmentally sustainable and healthy consumption and production practices are imperative. You have all been placed in listen-only mode for this webinar to ensure the smooth running and no interruptions. So please use the chat bar to ask any questions that you may have. I intend to leave time at the end, approximately 20 minutes, for any questions that you might have, and the teams available will also be available after this webinar via email for any further questions that you may have. A very brief introduction to myself firstly. I am Naomi Scott-Mearns and I work for the NGO Consumers International, a global membership organisation working for the rights of consumers globally. Consumers International are one of the co-leads of the Consumer Information Programme of the UN One Planet Network. Since I started my role, I have been closely working with the team in Sri Lanka for delivery of this project, which you're about to hear more about. I will be moderating today's webinar and will be posing some of your questions to the speakers. The format of today's webinar is a project summary from Mr. Samantha Kumarasena, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Cleaner Production Centre in Sri Lanka. He will explore the aims of the project, challenges faced and the results, and there will be time for any questions that you might have at the end. The slides will also be made available after this webinar. I am very pleased now to introduce Mr. Samantha Kumarasena, who is a professional with more than 20 years of experience in advisory, capacity building and performance evaluation of the industries at national and international levels. He is an experienced cleaner production auditor and an energy auditor, including lead auditor to many ISO management systems, including 14001 and 9001. He is also a visiting lecturer to several universities and institutes in Sri Lanka, and he currently holds the position of Chief Executive Officer of the National Cleaner Production Centre in Sri Lanka. So Mr. Kumarasena, please, over to you.
Thank you, Naomi. A good day for all of you. So, thank you for joining with us to have a fruitful discussion about the Green Product Certification Scheme for the dairy sector in Sri Lanka and other activities undertaken by the project supported by Consumer Information Program. First of all, let me briefly introduce National Cleaner Production Centre in Sri Lanka. So this NCPC Sri Lanka was set up by UNIDO and UNEP under the UNIDO-UNEP Global Cleaner Production Program. This program, as you are aware, came out after the Second Earth Summit in '92. So then, starting with 8 centres in large developing countries in 1994. Under this project, as the 23rd centre, NCPC Sri Lanka was formed in 2002. This was under Ministry of Industry and Commerce as a project of UNIDO. It was funded by Royal Norwegian Government. Then, as usual with other NCPCs, when the first and second phase funding is over, NCPC was set up as an institute in Sri Lanka in 2013. In our legal status, we are partnering with 2 leading chambers in the country, Ceylon National Chamber of Industries, CNCI, and National Chamber of Exporters, NCE. Our board is represented, in addition to these two chambers, by 5 governmental organizations: Ministry of Industry and Commerce, Ministry of Environment and Mahali Development, Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority, National Engineering Research Centre, then University of Moratu, one of the leading engineering university in Sri Lanka. So it's a kind of public-private partnership, not-for-profit organization, so that we are mostly leading the environmental sustainability agenda activities in Sri Lanka, working with government, private sector, universities, as well as other stakeholders. NCPC has been conducting in last more than 15 years so much of leading activities in the country. Couple of highlights if I take. So NCPC was instrumental in conducting national level capacity building and developing the capacity in the country in life cycle assessment, eco-design, and eco-labeling, mainly in Sri Lanka. Then we were implementing a couple of pilot projects in several tools introduced by UNIDO and UNEP. Mainly those were chemical leasing, responsible production, eco-innovation, green chemistry, etc. Then NCPC conducted the first Sri Lankan roundtable on SCP in 2007. We continued that in 2010, 2013 likewise. NCPC started the first national environmental awards program in Sri Lanka in the name of National Cleaner Production Awards in 2007. Then, continuing our environmental leadership under the project that we are discussing today, we took another 2 initiatives, that is developing Sri Lankan database on life cycle inventory, as well as developing an accredited green product certification scheme for Sri Lanka, which will be main topics for our discussion today. Let me come to an overview of the project. This project, as Naomi mentioned, was a 2-year project. The main project name is Promoting Sustainable Consumption and Production in Sri Lanka through Facilitating Accessibility to Information. So then, One Planet Network, formerly known as 10YFP program, so then came out with 6 themes. Under the 6 themes, they went for pilot projects during the 10-year program. So then we implemented this project under the theme Consumer Information. Then this project is targeting SDGs. As you are aware, this 10YFP is targeting SDG implementation. Basically, SDG target 12.1 is implementing this program. So therefore, this project is mainly catering to the responsible consumption and production SDG goal 12. There are 3 main objectives in this project. The strengthening sustainable consumption drive in the country. So by now in Sri Lanka, country has been aligned to the SCP activities. Mainly in Sri Lanka, this SCP policy component project supported by EU Switch Asia program was implemented and completed in this year January. It was a 4-year project. In addition to that, couple of other projects have been implemented to initiate this top-down approach as well as propagation in the industry level. This project took a time and effort to coordinate and strengthen these activities. If I come to the second objective, that part is very clear. Creating synergy between 10YFP Consumer Information Program together with green public procurement, eco-innovation, and this SCP policy support component projects in Sri Lanka. Mainly, if I briefly mention, this green public procurement is an initiative by Ministry of Environment. So then they have started working on that area. Eco-innovation is another pilot project implemented by NCPC Sri Lanka with the support of UNEP. So it was among 9 countries that implemented in the first round of pilot. Then, as I mentioned, this policy support component was a major project to develop a SCP policy for Sri Lanka. So it was continued from 2016 to 2020. Then in this project was developed while those projects are in place, so that we identified gaps in between coordination, so that this project was used to fill those gaps as well as take it forward. So therefore, a lot of synergy was created in the outputs of those projects because of this particular project that we plan taking the inputs from the other projects. So then under this project, we have a key activity of developing a certifiable green product criteria that is simply called eco-labeling scheme for Sri Lanka, which is missing in the country. So then we selected the agri-food product category. Let me come to the activity level. It has so many activities in place, but key activities are: number one, assessing and increasing consumer awareness on sustainability issues, as well as use of information and available green product certification. As you are aware, first of all, we have to take some stocks in the baseline. So then, how much awareness is there in the country among the customers regarding these green products? Then, with that survey done, then we started working on the life cycle inventory database development. So for your information, by that time, under the SCP policy project, they had done an initial survey. We were based on that survey, and then we went on developing the inventory database. Let me explain that on coming up slides. Then, even based on life cycle inventory data, so then this green product certification scheme was developed for the dairy product category, and we are assisting 2 companies. Let me now elaborate about the details of those activities. This consumer information survey, the major findings are like this. So then, this green products creates an impact on environment. So 99% people are thinking that this actually in the country, so then there will be an impact on the environment. But when it comes to this green environmental friendliness, actually the buying such products is the responsibility of the consumer. Then instead of normal product, buying those products is responsibility of the consumer. Only 79% people believe that to be so. Then actually 60% of the people are aware about green, sustainable, environmental friendly products. So therefore, this survey was creating such results. Then, when it comes to the awareness of the product impacts, that means our question was whether the consumers are aware about the environmental impacts. Then only a small portion of people, 2%, that we are fully aware. Then some people, Ecolabel and consumer purchase decisions, actually, how much it is affected. So then this will be varying. Actually, for most of the people, these purchase decisions are not affected by the Ecolabel because they are not looking at any labels. Then, when it comes to the activity level, the next activity is developing the life cycle inventory database. In Sri Lanka, there is no life cycle inventory database so far. So then, as our neighboring countries have already started, we wanted to start this one under this project. Then when we are selecting sectors, so under the rice and dairy. This was under SCP project. Then under this project, we continue to work
Hi, Samantha, we're struggling to hear you. Are you, is there any connection issues? Was wondering if you could start this slide again, please.
to collect the data ground level. In fact, that kind of data will create much more accurate results in our database. We managed to do that with a very detailed questionnaire, spending a lot of time in the sites. So then the data collection and LCA database development for these three sectors has been completed. Then we wanted to go for the next activity, assessing and increasing the consumer awareness on sustainability issues. So then consumer awareness survey, as I mentioned, actually it was completed in 2018. Then under that one, we actually found out the information about the consumers' awareness on sustainability issues, their ability and willingness to use the environmental information in decision making, so on. Then in addition to that, in Sri Lankan context, there is another issue related to the food sector, agri-food sector, because consumers are highly concerned in this time about the food products in terms of health, safety, quality, etc. So therefore, those are some key sustainability issues in terms of awareness that we noted. Then, having completed the LCA database, then we stepped into developing the green product criteria scheme for the dairy sector, dairy products. Then we started with the workshop how to start the eco-labeling, because in Sri Lanka the capacity was very minimum on developing eco-labels because we did not have it earlier. So then we managed to conduct the capacity building training with the support of UN Environment, Japanese ECOMAS, as well as Thailand Green Eco Label Scheme. Then we engaged stakeholder organizations in this training, and then training was conducted on developing Type 1 Ecolabel according to ISO 14024 standard. Subsequently, the same resource persons engaged in conducting a training program on communicating product sustainability. So then that program was conducted to create, actually to pass the guidelines and principles developed for the companies, and that is piece of work done by UNEP. Then we used to conduct this training program for the Sri Lankan stakeholders. Then under the Ecolabel development, so LCA database was useful in developing the this eco-labeling scheme. So then in Sri Lanka, under the SCP project, another work has been done, that is an eco-labeling platform was created. That platform is the institutional mechanism about how this eco-label should be performed in the country. So that's a comprehensive work done in that one, it has identified that Sri Lanka Standard Institute as a key organization to operate the eco-labeling scheme in the country, national level eco-labeling scheme. So then we started working with that organization, SLSI, to develop the eco-labeling scheme. Then, in selection of the sectors, again we went for consultative process with the stakeholders, where it was then dairy sector was identified among the 3 sectors as the main sector for developing the eco-label. Then, now we have already developed this scheme. There were more than 20 stakeholders participating in the technical committees. So then it's represented by industries, government organizations, universities, and all kind of stakeholders. Then that criteria and everything was developed. So we have decided that SLSI will be the eco-labeling scheme owner. They will be operating the eco-labeling scheme. Not only that, this is starting the national eco-labeling system in Sri Lanka. That is the great initiative. SLSI is ready to go ahead with developing eco-labels for the other products also. This will be a very first product that they develop the eco-label. Then for the staff of SLSI, mainly for the auditors, some actually training were conducted. Now these photos show some discussions we had with the stakeholders. We conducted more than 8 meetings, more than half a day. So then to develop this scheme, so then subsequently, a couple of training programs were conducted for them, especially Mr. John Eric, the chair of the board, the Global Eco-Labeling Network, conducted a training program on Skype to the auditors and NCPC staff on eco-labeling, as well as we as local resource persons, we conducted some training as we have been trained under TOT. Then those programs were useful in developing the capacity of the auditors. Then, on the other hand, having developed this eco-label, I must mention, so this is not in existence in the other countries, most of the other countries. We are going to obtain the national level accreditation for this scheme. In Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka Accreditation Board is there, so which can accredit any kind of schemes. Then we work with Sri Lanka Accreditation Board to develop the accreditation scheme for the eco-labeling scheme. Usually eco-labeling schemes are getting the GEN membership, but that will be obtained by this scheme later. But Sri Lanka accreditation is also there with the label. Then, on the other hand, we must promote this to the actually market and to the manufacturers. Then, companies should apply for the eco-labeling scheme. So then NCPC worked on that direction also under this project. We conducted a CEO forum for the target industries selected from those 3 sectors. Then they were given the complete idea about the existing eco-labeling scheme. Then we wanted to support them to get ready to apply, to improve their environmental performance and so on. Then companies came out with their written commitment to develop their capacity with the support of NCPC. So then we started working with them. Then we conducted from the CEO's consent given for this, we selected 30 organizations to develop the capacity. Then we conducted capacity building on eco-innovation. I must mention this capacity building was done through eco-innovation. Eco-innovation is another novel tool implemented in pilot scale in Sri Lanka with the support of UNEP. So which will change the business model of the organization to make it much more environmental friendly organization. So eco-innovation methodology was used to develop the, let's say, improve the performance of the industries. Then eco-innovation strategy was the contents of the training. So then afterwards, we as pilot companies supported 2 companies to implement eco-innovation in the companies, providing complete consultative support that is in the field, in the factories itself. So then other companies also, on their request, we were able to provide additional support for them to go for this implementation of eco-innovation. Those 2 companies came out and selected by us were Kotmale Dairies, that is coming under Cargill's Ceylon PLC, then Rich Life Dairies Private Limited. Those 2 are leading dairy manufacturers in Sri Lanka. Their products are they're making a lion's share in the local market so that they can create an impact. So that's why we selected those 2 companies. Then our experts visited all these companies, then provided consultancy, and then implemented eco-innovation to improve their performance further, and then to fill the gaps and so on. Then those companies now has applied for the Ecolabel. Then on the other hand, we have to create the market awareness. Then we started working with leading supermarket chains. We conducted those capacity building programs, or actually start with awareness with the 2 leading supermarkets. Cargill Ceylon PLC is the largest supermarket chain in Sri Lanka. More than 400 supermarkets are there. Then John Keel Holdings is the next largest one, having more than 200 outlets in Sri Lanka. So these figures, numbers, great numbers as a small country, Sri Lanka. So then they are covering a majority of the consumers. So then we started developing capacity in them. So here we introduce the eco-labeling scheme to them. They take the task of actually promoting to the customers and bringing the information to the customers about the ongoing eco-labeling scheme. Then we conducted for the first time in Sri Lanka the National Conference on Life Cycle Assessment in last May. So then this is under this one, actually we were able to educate our Sri Lankan organizations as well as professionals about the developed eco-labeling scheme, LCA database that we developed under the Consumer Information SCP project. As well as we went on media. So then we had media conference, then newspaper came out with articles. This is one of such articles that we have developed. This is one of that such article. Then in addition to the media, if you are in touch with our social media of NCPC, we are using all social media to give publicity for all these activities came out with the project. So therefore, then and there those activities were receiving actually necessary awareness among the interesting parties about those activities with this social media and media publicity that we carried out. Public procurement. Then when come to sustainable public procurement, it is very easy to implement the work when eco-labeling scheme is in place. So therefore, this eco-labeling scheme is now started. it will continue with other products. So therefore, that will really facilitate for the SPP implementation in the country. Then on the other hand, this eco-labeling scheme will facilitate green procurement activities in the corporate sector also. In Sri Lanka, there are about 18 eco-labels that are used by manufacturers. All are eco-labels developed in the other countries and by other organizations like that. But in when the national eco-labeling scheme is there, especially SMEs will be able to easily go for this and then make their products greener. On the other hand, retailers and end customers also will get benefit as they are looking for health conscious products. That is the main concern in the country in this point of time. So therefore, they will be getting eased when this kind of labels are in place for the food products mainly. Then, now we have started the LCA database. LCA database was something, it's a big gap in promoting sustainability, environmental sustainability in the country. Now with this LCA database, it will facilitate conducting life cycle assessments in Sri Lanka. As well as this will be making the way forward for picking up other tools which are based on life cycle assessment. That is carbon footprint, eco design, etc. Product carbon footprint is what I mean, because product carbon footprint, now the new standard ISO 14067 is certifiable. We expect a lot of companies to go for this in near coming future, so that having the LCA database will help them to go there. Last but not least, let me briefly outline what we are going to do for continuation of these activities. In fact, this 2 years project has come to an end. We have done some good work, but most of the time, everybody, including donors and then other stakeholders, they keep some doubts about the continuation of the good work. But NCPC is a well-established organization in the country. We have our plans for the continuation. So then, even before completing this project, we started working on another project to develop a roadmap on LCA database development in Sri Lanka. This project was supported by UNEP and implemented in 5 countries. So then, Eco-Invent was the organization which was coordinating this. So then NCPC was implementing the project in Sri Lanka, so that with the stakeholder consultation, now we have developed a roadmap regarding developing LCA database. At the same time, during a stakeholder consultation, they all proposed unanimously that NCPC should run the database, LCA database in Sri Lanka, operating and maintaining and making data available with LCA database is not so easy, but NCPC has a mechanism and we have plans as to how to run this kind of database and make the data available for the required parties. Then this roadmap will be implemented accordingly. Next one, this eco-labeling scheme should be further promoted to the industries. We have developed the capacity of 30 companies in the dairy sector. But in addition to that, we will continue this support to the industries. Mainly industries will be supported through eco-innovation, and then we will promote them applying to the eco-labeling the products. On the other hand, now this Sri Lanka Standard Institute has formed what is called a high-level committee in the organization regarding eco-labeling. So then NCPC also represent there. So then with the Sri Lanka Standard Institute, we will work to develop the eco-labeling schemes for the other sectors, other products as well. Then on the other hand, government of Sri Lanka is going to implement sustainable public procurement, so that we are there to support the government with our technical support and project support. Now, for example, NCPC is going to implement a new project on chemicals in products with the support of UNEP again. So it's a 4-year project funded by JEF. So then under that project, we have included an activity to support the public procurement activities of the government. So then this kind of things will be really facilitated with the basic LCA database and Ecolabels that are developed in the country. So therefore, sustainable public procurement, as we all are aware, government is the single largest buyer in any country. So then when the government is ready to buy green products, then the demand is created so that that will be help to really sustain Ecolabels in the country. So therefore, you may agree, this project was working on entire supply chain. We were creating the demand as well as we are enabling the capacity to supply. So then this consumer information will be really communicated with tools like Ecolabel. So then eco-labeling can be easily implemented when life cycle analysis capacity is there in Sri Lanka as well as database is available. So therefore, it's a well integrated, well coordinated project that we implemented to bring all these elements into an existence. Previously, we did not have these elements in the country. Now those are in place. So even when we start the project, there were actually even a lot of stakeholders question whether we can do all these activities under project like this in 2 years. But UNEP and NCPC and other stakeholders like Consumer International, we are confident that we are in a position to do that. So therefore, ultimately we were able to set up this all these elements and their interlinks for the continuation of the passage of the consumer information from the manufacturer to the consumer. So therefore, that will bring the country to a new era, so that now we can work on that platform, so that as well as NCPC is looking forward always to take our initiatives to the development. Actually, we want to nurture what we have planted, so that NCPC work with government as well as private sector to go for that. So I guess I have covered what I expected. Then thank you very much for your kind attention, and I would like to be here to discuss whatever the comments, questions that you have raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for that clear presentation. We've got a couple of questions coming in, so I'm going to start off with the first question, which is from Sandra Vision, who asks, I'm curious to learn what criteria and indicators are included in the eco-labelling for the dairy sector. Is it only greenhouse gas footprint per unit of milk produced, or does it evaluate dairy production impact in a wider environmental context, for example, including nutrient management, water quality, biodiversity, etc.? So looking for
sorry. Yeah. No, mic is on. Sorry. Yes, it is not only greenhouse gas emissions. It's all sort of elements such as, let's say, usage of the harmful chemicals, as well as waste management, usage of the water, usage of the energy, then as well as chemical consumption and chemical waste. All these aspects are looked after in this criteria. Not only that, it is working for the entire life cycle, starting from the livestock farming until the product comes to the consumer, then all the elements are addressed in this criteria that we develop. But it is not so strict because we were not in a position to give any most of the, let's say, performance levels, etc. So that those criteria has been, in some areas we have simple evaluation methods, but key criteria are covered with the performance level.
Thank you very much for that answer. So the next question is, what is one of the biggest challenges that you faced in the project?
Okay, so in fact, in implementing the project, actually, one thing we are working on environmental initiative, which is not the key topic to most of the corporates as well as sometimes even the government, because economic development is the priority. So then getting them aware and lobbying them, taking them on board is a challenge. So then, in fact, in this project, it happened us to work with so many stakeholders. So that's why it is challenging. One side, it is the government organizations, leading organizations. On the other hand, private sector companies, then the market chains. So then you are maintaining right communication strategy and then convincing them on the right things, good things is a challenge. So actually, you have to be good in that because collaboration is required to implement this. Single organization, NCPC or any organization cannot implement such a project unless all stakeholders collaborate. So therefore, the organization that is coordinating this activity should have the personality and the strength to mobilize other stakeholders. So I think that is one of the key part in this project. Technical areas, mostly you can manage.
Thank you for that answer. And then the next question is, do you have any plans to follow up with surveys with consumers to understand how they are accepting the eco-label for the dairy scheme?
Yeah, it's a very important question. So then we have it because we will be continuing to use the media, print media mainly, to educate the consumers about these eco-labels. Then in that case, we understand that we have to do market segmenting, especially first of all, we can easily convert high-end customers because most of the high-end customers are in western province of the country. So then they are mostly visiting the retail outlets. So then we have to start from there. Then for them actually we work with the supermarket chains to disseminate our information to the customer, and that kind of direct communication will be there in addition to media. In fact, our target in working with the supermarket chains is bringing that awareness to the retail outlet level so that everybody in the retail outlet are aware. Then we are actually we have disseminated some information or displaying even. So then those information will be made available directly to the consumer. Let's say when they see something displaying, they at least start thinking. So therefore, we take such initiatives to bring this information to the consumer. On the other hand, Sri Lanka Standard Institute also now, as they are the scheme owners, they have their plans to promote.
Great, that's really good to know that it'll be promoted across Sri Lanka. So the next question is from Nils Her, and he says, thank you for the presentation, it's a great project. Is the eco-label already used on products at the moment? And if so, how many products have been labelled? And do you already have an indication of how consumers respond to the eco-labels? Does it influence purchasing?
Yeah, under this project, we were able to start this with the dairy products. Then actually, when we discussed with the experts, actually international experts, we came to know that we can have a single label covering all dairy products. So therefore, this label developed will cover from fresh milk to yogurt, ice cream, all these products, the range that these companies are producing. But then each and every product has a separate production process. So then auditors must audit and cover all these processes. But the logo they can use for each and every product coming from these dairy industries. So then we have already started with dairy. Then we have to now continue for the other products. Understanding the important products, then it will be a journey to go ahead. It is same as in the other international organizations have done the same thing. So then now we started and we have to now continue.
Great, thank you. And there's two questions here from Mauriel, who says, I want to thank you for the speaker very much for the presentation. So they have two questions. One, how did you choose the sectors? I want to know how you chose the 3 agri-food sectors. And the second question is, outside of the government support of eco-labelling products, do you take the regulation to enforce the process of eco-labelling?
Sorry, the second question, would you please repeat?
So outside the government support of eco-labelling, do you think there needs to be separate regulation to enforce the process of eco-labelling and the process of certification?
Okay, thank you. So the first question, actually, sector selection, mainly I just mentioned in the presentation also, under the previous SCP policy support component project. It's a large project implemented with the EU support. So then there was an extensive consultative process to select the sectors. Then actually more than 50 stakeholders were sitting for more than 10 meetings of more than half day, discussing, and then they went through a very detailed criteria to select the priority sectors in the country. Then actually food sector became the most priority sector for the country. Even in that sector, when subsectors were selected, those 3 sectors, dairy sector, rice milling, as well as for the tea sector was selected as priority. Then subsequently, under the same SCP project, there was an activity to identify priority products for sustainable public procurement. Then in that process, among the food products, fresh milk was one of the products that they selected. So therefore, that was hinting from actually no product from the other 2 sectors in that is sustainable public procurement products selected through that selection. So therefore, that is creating let's say common factor that dairy sector going to be the priority. On the other hand, we conducted the LCA database development. Then we come across, really speaking, now rice milling is an important sector, but the data collection, those things are, so far it's not properly organized. Then this sector should be taken later on, not right now. Then on the other hand, tea sector, most of the tea products are exported, they are interested, but that is mostly not for local consumption. Dairy products are much more tea. So therefore, then that was also another consideration of the stakeholders, because this project had a steering committee representing the key organizations, 9 organizations. Then the steering committee also discussed based on those factors. Then actually this dairy sector was selected as the suitable sector to start with, because it has an impact to the consumers then it is relatively convenient to implement, then manufacturers are also ready to implement. So therefore, those factors, success factors, are also in place in this sector. So then that is our evaluation criteria for this. Second question. Yes. Second question was about how to operate without government support. Like, let's say eco-labeling schemes are mostly implemented as voluntary schemes. Then in Sri Lanka Standard Institute is a government organization. They are going to scheme owners and they are going to implement it. So therefore, that has some, let's say, government stake. In addition to that, however, so then this demand has to be created from that side as government is going for sustainable public procurement, as they are going to accept this co-labeling scheme, then actually they will be creating a demand. So I was talking about everything other than regulations, but regulations basically to promote the eco-label may not be so valid, I think, at this stage. So it will not be making regulations, but when company going for eco-label, actually they must meet the existing environmental regulations, like having an environmental protection license. Those has been noted and included in the eco-label criteria. Basically, those should be complying to all compliance obligations when they are going for eco-label. So other than that, we are not thinking about making it mandatory for a sector. Likewise, eco-label can be selected as a criteria for product selection for companies or for government. That's why under government public procurement, they are going to make that a criteria probably in the future when they develop the scheme. As well as private sector also, we are promoting them to use that as a criteria for corporate buying under green procurement. Consumers also then should make a choice. So therefore, it will be a voluntary approach, but government is there as SLSI is operating this one.
Great, that's really interesting. And then just the last question, which I think is a quicker question to answer, is coming from Hector Corrales in Paraguay. And he's asking, is there a guide to the dairy companies to implement the eco-label, and is this publicly available?
Well, actually, we had some pilot scale activity. That means we selected 30 dairy companies, and then we were actually dairy and tea companies, because we expect to go for tea also in future. Then we trained them on eco-labeling methodology. So then we were using this eco-labeling methodology to develop the capacity. Eco-innovation methodology. So this eco-innovation methodology toolkit is available to download from the UNEP website. So then using that methodology, as we have done a pilot project earlier also for the food sector, so we use that methodology. Then having worked with the industries, now we know best practices. So far we have not published such a document, guideline document, but we can do that for the future, and we can work with a couple of industries. What are the key things that we should work with in the dairy companies? We are getting ready for eco-label. On the other hand, eco-label criteria itself will be a guidance for the companies. If they can follow that eco-labeling requirements, then they can prepare for those. Eco-innovation will be a good methodology to get ready. In other words, to improve the performance. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to close the webinar now, and I'd like to thank you all for listening in today to hear about this green certification scheme project in Sri Lanka. I'd like to really thank Mr. Samantha Kumarasena for his really clear and engaging presentation today. And of the audience, if you'd like any more information, please contact the team at National Cleaner Production Centre in Sri Lanka, or you can contact the Consumer Information Programme on CISCP@un.org. There's also lots of further information on the project available on the One Planet Network website, including several documents that you can download. The slides that were shown today will be sent to you all after this presentation, as well as our contact details. So I'd like to thank you all very much for dialing in and wishing you all a good day.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you very much for your coordination and support. So thank you for all the audience who engaged today to educate on this subject. Thank you very much.